All right, we out here live with Dr. Paul Ofili. This is Dr. Ben Glass. I'm a chiropractor. Welcome any pre-chiro students out there. We're just going to have a meaningful conversation, try and give you some deep insights, try and keep it real with you just so that you can have more clarity on what this path could look like for you. And maybe we could shorten your learning curve a little bit while we're at it. So, Dr. Paul, can you just introduce yourself, reflect a little bit on that time before you went to chiropractic school? Like, what were you thinking about? What were some of the potential pathways you were going to take? And maybe like how did your upbringing shape that thought process? And how did you decide on chiropractic?
Hmm. Well, hey everybody, I'm Dr. Paul Ofili. Originally from Waterbury, Connecticut. Always got to shout out Waterbury, Connecticut. I love that place. Nah, I don't love it like I used to, but um, so pretty much my story is that when I was young, I was really into sports, so I played a lot of sports growing up. Um, so I knew I always felt attracted to like working with athletes in some direction, but I think a lot of people feel that way about a lot of different things. Me personally, I got into a car accident that pretty much changed my whole life. Was a near death car accident where it pretty much halted everything that I was doing in my life and career. Um, when that happens, everything shifts. Like your mindset, your energy, everything that you are looking forward to becomes a blank slate. And in that moment, I had to make a decision on what I wanted to do. I went to go see a lot of medical doctors during that time, and the medical doctors didn't really resonate with me because it was a residence of talking about what's wrong with me, how I can't do something. So a lot of limitation. At a young age, I didn't really know what that really all was because you're getting a lot of verbiage, but it felt limiting, saying that you won't be able to do something for the rest of your life. I couldn't live with that, and it wasn't until I saw a chiropractor where hope was reinstilled in me, and that hope was, I think I can get you back to what you were before. Coming from a near-death car accident, having a shattered femur, and all this stuff, I haven't heard that. I never heard that actually. Um, I had the confidence that that would be the case, but no one else seemed to have that in the medical world until I met the chiropractor, and the chiropractor told me exactly that. He said, "I think you can get better." That right there sold it for me because what I want to be doing is I want to be giving people hope, not telling people what they can't do and limitations. And as a chiropractor, that's a big component of what we do. I don't instill anyone with fear. I tell them what could be, what's the possibilities. And when you're coming from health at that standpoint, it's a way different energy than coming at it from here's the things that you won't be able to do in this particular moment. I never tell my patients they can't do anything because I know I'm not God and I don't want to season their mind into a realm of becoming their diagnosis.
hmm
Uh,
hmm Yeah, no doubt. Can we take that same reflection on how we don't want to necessarily instill fear in people, but how we as chiropractic students had fear in us at different times internally? It's an internal process. It's not that we were trying to promote fear, but there's things that we went through as students that had us doubting, had us worried just about our future or what we were up to. Like, did you have any moments, maybe early on in school, where you were doubting what you were doing there, or just the process in general? I mean, it's a difficult one, man.
yeah. I mean, we went to school together, so there were definitely moments of feeling that, of feeling like, am I in the right place? Because you have to understand, like, when you come from certain type of fabric before school, everything is so medical world. This whole world is all new to you. So what gets challenged is the core values that were handed to you that weren't necessarily yours, right? In the first place. These values came from living your everyday life in the normal world, right? In the
Mhm.
everyday person world. So when you get into Cairo school, a lot of these values get challenged, and at times it can be exciting because you find new information that can uphold you to the next level.
Hmm.
But at times you get information where it really challenges you deep. So I went to both of those stages in school where I started learning so much things about like health and well-being that it was so evolving. Um, the chiropractic was one standpoint, but spirituality and the connection between spirituality and chiropractic was such a shining light into me because it's not only that the body can heal itself, is that our mind is capable of playing a big component of that too. Where the downside came is where when you speak that kind of philosophy, it can feel like a religion sometimes. And at times you're questioning, you're borderlining on the line of like, man, does this like feel like religion versus like chiropractic? And I think a lot of students can feel that way at times. Uh, but the truth is, everything is everything. And when we try to separate things too much, it becomes mechanistic. And truthfully, life is very vitalistic and it all comes together into one piece. So
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
I think throughout school, I started to learn that is that I used to think people had it figured out, but I realized no one does. So who are we comparing ourselves to? So we make our own journey. So if
Hmm.
I want to create vitalism in my own direction, I can do that, and no one can tell me I can't. The only time when someone tells me I can't and I believe them, that's my own fault. So at school, I started to get that strength to be able to create my own destiny and my own reality, because the mind is a powerful thing to waste, man.
Hmm. There was a time towards the end of your schooling where you did a speech called Hero. And when you say everything is everything, you start to see yourself in those that you care about the most. You start to see their limitations and their belief systems and their values and what's going
Mhm.
on in their life, and you want to help them. Can you kind of reflect on how you were starting to get exposure to some of these deep truths in the lens of chiropractic, seeing things through the chiropractic lens, and then really wanting to give back to your family, to your community, and just kind of touching on the importance of like how you manage that, because it could be stressful for wanting to help but not really being able to help, and really
Right,
having there be a big gap between where you get to as a chiropractic student and where normal people are at in society or in your family.
right, right. Yeah, I think sometimes when you're in chiropractic school, the growth is so rapid, and I think you have this idea that everyone's growing as fast as you are. And then when you get the reality check is when you talk to your family. Your family is the hardest thing to penetrate. And, you know, my particular family, we're just stuck in the model that I was stuck in. So even in practice now, I live by this philosophy. Talk to Paul. To, how would the Paul before chiropractic school understand this? If you're able to bring a message that I'm able to understand that I when I was pre-chiropractic, that means the message is solid, right? Um, Sometimes as chiropractors, we say all these big words and we do all these things and we just vomit on people, right? And my thing is like we got to keep it simple, stupid. So at that particular moment in school, when I was giving that speech, I felt very forceful with my energy on to we got to change your life, we got to do all this stuff. But I realized change doesn't happen unless the person allows themselves to change, right? So how do you do that? You be an influencer, right? How to be an influence, be an example of what you're trying to portray. Um, when I was able to do that, people ask questions. When people ask questions, they want answers versus me giving them answers without them asking for it. So
Mhm.
as I started to grow, I started to get better at that, just being a prime example of what I'm trying to be. And people started to ask questions. Those questions led to better answers. And my answers would allow them to open up a new channel that they wouldn't have been exposed to before, you know?
Most definitely. And one of the ways that we're trying to sort of I don't want to say categorize. One of the ways we're trying to contextualize becoming a chiropractor is you do become a teacher. And a lot of being a teacher is being a good listener, but also asking great questions. So I'm
100%.
curious if you could just reflect, even today in practice, what are some of the basic questions that you ask when you're trying to meet somebody where they're at and keep it simple?
Right. So I would say that some of the basic questions that I do ask are very much like you kind of put the two together right there is listening. So it could be a simple question like, what's going on? And people can go on a spill, but the difference between a chiropractor and a medical doctor, I believe at times, is that there could be a fast turnover or they're ready to give you a medication or whatever, but truthfully, people just need a vent. So I say the power sometimes is asking a simple question, letting someone like exhaust themselves in answering the question because they feel like they're letting it all out. Versus like a lot of times people leave a doctor's appointment and they feel like he didn't let me talk about this or I didn't get to say this. But in my consultation, I feel like they've never expressed it at that kind of level. And that's where nonviolent communication comes in. And this is something that I recommend to at my seminars is one of the three books that are the major keys of Samurai. The reason why nonviolent communication is key is because empathy is going to save the world. And the more we're able to tap into being empathetic for other individuals, the better people are going to be understood and heard, and the better the conversations are going to be. So when I'm doing a consultation, it's similar to like I'm having a conversation in the living room. And I think that's why people are able to let their guard down that I'm in an office with a doctor. I'm in an office with a human being who's listening to me.
Mm.
Uh, and I think that's the beauty of listening because listening opens people up to a point where you could get information because truthfully life is about information. The more information you can get, the better you can handle any situation. But to get information, you must listen. And a lot of times people are trying to answer a question halfway through listening to someone's spill or trying to already figure it out. The truth is, how about you turn your mind off, don't figure it out, and listen to everything they have to say, and then maybe figure out at that point what your reply would be.
Hmm. Yeah, and if I'm really reflecting on what gets us to this place where we're able to truly listen to people as chiropractors, which is a different way of listening than, say, a medical approach, is we have this internal locus of control, or we're coming from within when we're hearing people, and we're
Mhm.
just really trying to get to know what's going on within them. And we recognize that the answers, everybody that comes into our space has the answers already. We just really need to hear where they're coming from, what they really got going on,
Right.
what's really important to them, because sometimes their injury or their aggravation is not what's really important to them, and we
Mhm.
speak to those. Can you kind of like talk about just being in business and the sales and presentation aspect of like identifying what's important to somebody, really honing in on that and helping them realize that you heard them and that you understand that and that you can help them with that, maybe if they're interested or if they're a good candidate? Just kind of like, how do you set the table, or how do you build somebody up to really being interested in working with you, like starting from them
Right.
just having, say, neck pain or back pain, and then you really getting in the conversation and getting to know them, kind of like get into some details. It's all about the details.
I think what I alluded to before is that how would Paul pre-Cairo want to be treated, right? Here it is. I was a big skeptic, right? Being a skeptic, if someone threw a $3,000 care plan in front of my face before any type of thing was done to me, that wouldn't appeal to me because I'm just like, what am I paying for again? But then there's this thing in a chiropractor's mind. One adjustment is not going to fix anything. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the vibration of that person, especially after their first adjustment, is going to be significantly different if you are good at the arts. If you're good at the arts, I've dedicated my life to the art. That's why when it comes to people coming to my office, that's the piece that I'm most excited about. So I'm able to package that up front at a very cheap price, or I don't like to say in cheap, at a very discounted price so they can be able to feel that. Why is that important? We are not first. We are not first. We are not first on people's lists. And that's okay. People get so emotional about that. But we are not first on people's lists. That's okay. The truth is, if the barrier of entry is lower for people to come to see you, people have an opportunity now to try something out they never tried before.
Mhm.
I love that. Why do I love that? I love that because you are about to get an experience you have never experienced in your life for a very low price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once they're lured in to that feeling of feeling clear and connected, they're going to want that.
Mm-hmm.
Not for the short term, for the long term. How did I do that? I did it like how I would talk to myself before chiropractic school. Show me something before I invest into this. It's
Mm-hmm.
like going to a car dealership and someone's like, here, the Lexus is for you. Sign the papers. And you never test drove the car. It doesn't make sense to me. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's sad that we have to do that, but I get excited about that component because if the art is there, the people will respond. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that like it has to be at this super masterful level because I feel like a lot of chiropractors don't even attempt to get to that level. But if you are really putting that work into your craft, it's going to be felt.
Mm-hmm.
I personally say this at the seminar sometimes. I say 70% of people get better with chiropractic in general, with whatever chiropractic you're doing. That's a great number, 70%. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're masterful at the craft, that 70% becomes 90%, 95%.
Mm-hmm.
That 25% makes a big difference in the world today. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say the big component there would be trying to talk myself pre chiropractic into doing something like a care plan or getting under care because those are the people that I'm talking to every day in my practice. They're the people that never seen a chiropractor before.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's great advice because you and I have had conversations where we reflect on those bigger price tags and we say to ourselves, no way, there was no way we were going that
Yeah, yeah.
we were going that route. But before school and before really recognizing the importance of long-term care. So
Mhm.
you being a college athlete, being a basketball player, having the mindset of, what was Kobe doing in his rookie year? What was Kobe doing in his third year?
Right.
Where was Kobe at in his fifth year? Having that comparison of how you had role models that kept getting better over time. How have you maintained that fire within to keep getting better over time, even after you got out of chiropractic school?
Hmm. Man, it's funny because people who know me know that I get crazy obsessed with improvement. And whatever the topic is, I need to become somewhat of um, I need to have a significant understanding of it before I move on. Example of this is when I was in school. Like I never gave a public speech before, and I was the president of the TikTokers Club, which is basically Toastmasters. To be the president of a club and you never gave a speech before, I wanted to put myself in the most uncomfortable position to be able to learn this and to become skillful at this. Right? There was a moment where it was the moment where I gave a speech and I didn't prepare for it that I feel like it's time to move on to the next thing. So the next thing was business, right? I started to feel like, okay, I wanted to learn how to run a business, all this stuff. It started going with the books. It started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. It started being obsessed with all this stuff. And that type of improvement, that obsession, that's the obsession that Kobe talked about. Like Kobe would finish a game and then after he'll go back and take a shower, come back out and still put up 1,000 shots after the game. That sometimes that mindset is necessary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now my new mindset that I'm trying to establish is balance, which is funny because it went from obsession. Now I'm obsessively trying to work on balance, being good at multiple things at one time. Uh, and that at time has been a struggle, but I'm getting better at it with time. So I would say I would say that sometimes people try to master like 10 things at once. I say work on one thing, and then when you feel really good about it, you move on to the next. But a lot of times people don't want to do things they're not good at. But that's where the growth happens. The growth happens in the uncomfortability, not in the comfortability, you know?
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. You recently changed coasts. You moved down to Florida from California. And
Hmm.
even getting out of school, it's similar to that transition of entering into a community where you're yet to know anybody or have your roots established. Can you talk
Hmm.
about like just landing in a new community and you know, all the emotions that come with that and just how you adapt, because being a chiropractor really is about finding the outlets that call to you and just following that intuition, following that innate mind, shall we say. Can you kind of just talk about how you get to a community, show up and get comfortable, get familiar and get it popping in practice?
So honestly, I feel like I'm led, Ben. Like there, you ever had a feeling in your stomach, like your gut feeling? You know how they people say, like, I have a gut feeling about this. My gut feelings are my truths, right? So the moment where I had the same dream twice in California of me living in a different place, and that place was Tampa, Florida, twice, I didn't need to ask any more questions. I didn't need to ask any more questions. It was time for me to be somewhere else. That was spiritual driven, right? So I knew coming to this place that there was something in store for me that I couldn't comprehend. And that's exactly what it was. Like my life has upgraded like tenfold from moving here, um, spiritually, financially, and growth wise. So a lot of times the subconscious mind speaks to us and we avoid it because we're like, oh no, I'm not sure if I want to do that. We get too mental about it. What I do is I listen to the subconscious mind at all times. And the subconscious mind was telling me, your time here is done. It's time to go to this place. And I remember like having a conversation with myself. They're like, go to that place. I was like, what place is that? And it was like that place you loved as a kid. Because I used to come to Tampa as a kid and go to Busch Gardens and all that stuff. And that's what it was. So I followed my heart. And when you follow your heart, a lot of times it leads to abundance. And I feel very blessed that my life here has become very abundant. It you know, it I never take for granted, especially coming from very humble beginnings, um, what chiropractic has given me. You know what I mean? It's given me an opportunity to travel, to live in different places, to meet the people that teach me so much. Like as much as like the patients are down to see me, I learn so much from them. So that's the gift. And being in a new community, you're attracting different type of clientele. So being in California, having that kind of clientele, like the California minded people, and then being in Florida, having Florida minded people, that's what gives you growth. You ever talk to someone who's traveled to many countries, how seasoned they are, how understanding they are, right? Being in practice in two different places, I have great understanding for different people in this world. And at the end of the day, what I realized, people are people, man. People are people, and they're all great in their own right. And I loved almost every client that I've served, and I feel blessed to be in a new place and to to be to be thriving here.
No, I'm happy for you. It sounds like you really landed in the right community. That's what's up. And you know, if we could just touch on our relationship, because I think that if we boil it down, when we got out of school, we looked at each other and said, you know, we're in the grind, we're in the struggle, we're going to be here for a little
Mhm.
while now. Why don't we just stay connected, stay in touch with one another? And I think that that's so important for new graduates to have somebody, at least one person, maybe a couple that you can connect with. And maybe you have different people that you connect with for different reasons. But can you kind of just reflect on the cast, the characters that you had as your supportive squad?
Mhm.
I look at you as being one of my big supports coming up in the game. And
Mhm.
can you kind of also just reflect on the different types of people, your parents, your family, your brothers, your friends, and just how important it is to look around you as a new graduate and maybe even as a chiropractic student and just find out those people that you could trust, those people you can lean on, those people that you can move forward with.
Yeah, man. There's a couple people that come to mind when you say that, and especially in the chiropractic community, because my family is first and foremost is the most important to me. But what happens over a period of time, those friends that you talked about there, that in that immediate circle, they become family to me. Um, and these are people that we have relationships beyond just chiropractic, right? We have relationships that propel into just human consciousness and growth. Those kind of relationships to me are more dynamic because if all we ever did was talk about chiropractic, that relationship wouldn't be well nourished all the time. And to me, the relationships that stand the test of time are the ones that are dynamic. And I have a couple of those, and the importance of that is key because we can slowly wrap ourselves into the mindset of whatever we're doing is the most important thing. And when people are giving you new ideas, you're able to kind of grow, and that's the most important thing is the growth process. So I would say having a tight niche, and it's easy when you graduate to separate from the people that you spent all this time with.
Mhm.
And personally, there's about 5 or 6 people that I'm in constant contact with all the time, and I really think that's been a huge component of just my growth out of school. So I really think it's important to nurture those relationships for sure.
No doubt. Can you kind of reflect on Samurais? What's the energy
Mhm.
you bring into it? What's the vision for it? How have students really come away from the seminar with a new expanded awareness of what it's like to be in practice, what it's like to be a chiropractor in the real world?
Man, I love teaching samurais. Like, there's no, I'm so passionate about teaching samurais, and it's funny because like I tell the students, I'm like, this ain't about money because I pull up there and like I don't. It's not
Mm,
like I make a fortune going to teach samurai, and I teach at a very discounted rate. Why? Because I want to touch more people. My purpose is more about touching more people than it is actually like the financial aspect of it. Um, Samurais, I really feel like it's what everything I wanted Cairo School to be, what it was missing, and packaged into seminars. How do I do that? I focus on three elements, and three elements are as simple as this. Can you adjust really damn good? That's one. Two, can you talk the talk? Can your communication, can you translate chiropractic to a layperson? Like the pre-chiropractic Paul, can you translate chiropractic to that person? The pre-chiropractic Ben, can you translate chiropractic to that person? And I find that students struggle with that, explaining how to what we do at these seminars. There's times where I'm just saying, where I'm asking someone like, "What do we do?" and we're just kind of like role playing it out, and they get so nervous to talk about something that they love, right? And putting people on the spotlight just really brings a new element to it. And the third thing is business. You got two hands, man. One hand is your artist hand, and your second hand is your business hand. Both of them has to be strong. They both have to be strong. So in Samurais, we focus on all three of those elements. And for some reason, in seminars, two or one of these things are always missing. When the triad creates the well polished chiropractor. Um, so this new thing I've been really focusing on is I started a 90-day program where after school, after you get your license, we work together for 90 days to make sure that you become profitable at the end of those 90 days. I'm not promising you millions of dollars. I'm not promising you any of that. But how is it to sell your first care plan, right? And all I'm doing is putting my hands on your back and pushing you forward and accelerating the process that could take a year or two because you're working for somebody else. You're bouncing around. I'm accelerating the process of to when you're profitable. And I think the problem sometimes with a lot of mentors is that they want to stick around in people's lives forever and say, this is the way I do it. This is their vision. All I'm trying to do is make sure that you're profitable by the end of 90 days. Tell me what your vision is. Bounce it off me. Make it make sense to me where we can grow this thing. And the
mhm.
students have been through it. It's been phenomenal, man. Like one of my guys, he's doing over like 13K a month, and he's only in month four. He's accelerated the process that took me months and years to learn within 90 days. And to me, that's just, and now he has a bigger vision now. And now he's trying to open up a yoga studio and all that stuff. He doesn't need me anymore. And I feel like a lot of times, like coaches, they want to stick around forever. So that's the new project that I've been working on. But
Mhm.
Samurais is like, let me test you. Let me see what you're really about. Can you throw down with the adjustment? Can
Mhm.
you talk that chiropractic talk? And do you
Mhm.
know what business is about? Do you understand what a write-off is? Do you
Mhm.
understand how to make a corporation? These simple things to us are not very simple to people graduating school because they never were taught it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's the big thing. It's just like I tell people, like, I'm not special. I'm not special. I'm not someone like, oh my God, Paul did it so differently. I went through the same loops that you went to. I struggled the same way that you struggled with that you did. Why can't you be successful in practice? Why do you have to be an associate? Why? And when people hear that, they get so inspired because no one ever tells them that they don't need to work for somebody.
Mhm.
Create your vision, man. If you don't create your vision, you're going to be creating someone else's.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of students that have talked about how they benefited greatly from going to the samurai seminar.
Mhm.
Um, and also, I've talked to a lot of people who haven't been to the samurai seminar who are about to get out of school. And I said, "What you about to do?" And they say, "I want to take an associateship." I'm like, "You sure?" Like,
Mhm.
there's a lot that you can learn with or without an associateship, and you don't necessarily have to be tied to somebody for a year, 2 years, or even more. Like you said, people once they get you in their life, they like to stay in your life if they're making money off you or if they're benefiting off of your energy and
Right, right.
your efforts. So I guess that's that's a lot of it that we touched on just now. I mean, if we're keeping it really real, like a lot of what you just talked about, write-offs, establishing corporations, tax strategies, investing, a
Mhm.
lot of this has come later on as we've been able to actually do those things
That's right.
because we're established. So
Mhm.
can you talk about what it's like once you do get established and you do have the ability to start a retirement plan? What are some recommendations you give to new graduates, new
Mhm.
chiropractors on
Mhm.
how to set themselves up for retirement? And then also, um, like, what are the three most important things in regards to personal money management and how you have certain people that support that, and then you
Mhm.
also support that yourself?
Yeah, that's a that's an important question to ask because when it comes to retirement, I think a lot of people think of retirement and they're thinking about when I'm 65 or 70. And a lot of retirement talk is one day, someday when I retire. Me, I want to live my life balance because there will never be a one day, someday. I'm going to be partially in and partially out and enjoy it. That to me is the balance of retirement that I'm trying to create. So how do you do that? Like, what's the main component behind that? Truthfully, you should always be making money on your money, right? Don't let a dollar go away without earning dividends or interest on that money. So if I have a nest egg of $100,000 and I spend $100,000 and I get nothing in return for that, that does not make sense to me. We're trying to fight inflation. We always need to be making money on our money. There's some people that I know that make 14% on every dollar that they get. There's some people I know that make 6% on every dollar that I get. There's some people I know that make 3% of money on every dollar that they get. That right there is going to create a retirement because every dollar that's spent, there's interest being paid to you, not to a bank, not to anything else, to you directly. Once you understand that concept, chiropractic is the vehicle that allows you to set up your life to allow these things in this abundance to come into your life.
Mhm.
So when I think about retirement, I'm thinking me still practicing 10, 15 hours, but there's no money. There's not really a worry about money chiropractically. It's just
Mhm.
I'm coming here and serving because my passive income covers my life expenses.
Mhm.
These are things that are not taught to us really at school or any of that stuff that I've learned through the grapevines of like, you need to position yourself to have different streams of income and streams of income that don't allow you to be there, right? Passively, truthfully, passively. And what life's about when it comes to financials is dividends. Are you getting dividends for what you're making? If
Mhm.
you if you don't understand what dividends are, look it up and understand how dividends pay out for the rest of your life.
Mhm. Mhm. Can you just touch on infinite banking and just kind of how that shifted your consciousness once you discovered it, and how you're currently using it to have an abundance mindset?
Yeah, the big thing is legacy, right? I'm trying to create a legacy, right? I want to start a legacy where the Ofili name has a lot of backing behind it. Um, Not only just like spiritually and confident, but also financially. How does one create that? If you're able to dive into certain type of baking concepts where which allow you to pay your family legacy, right? Acquiring certain accounts that pays your family legacy after you pass. You're passing on generational wealth, right? Also, the concept of being paid to do that, being paid to store money in places where you're getting a dividend for, versus you put your money in a bank account, what they give you, pennies on the dollar, even if that, maybe 0.001% that they give you storing your money in a bank account. You have to realize these institutions are not set up for you to strive. They're set up for them to take.
Hmm.
So how can I position myself to be in a position where I protect my legacy and also get paid to do that? And that's what Infinite Bacon has done for me. But it's grown from Infinite Bacon now. Like I'm pretty big into cryptocurrency. Because I feel like cryptocurrency has a bright future in the world in terms of financials. Because just like when AOL came out, people thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and how that evolved. Now we got Google, everything's rapid speed, iPhone 10, all this stuff, and right now blockchain is that, but we don't understand it yet. 5 or 10 years, everything's going to be run on the blockchain. So I personally feel like being an early adapter. And how do you become an early adapter? You talk to people that are smarter than you. People like to be the smartest dog. If you're the smartest dog in your group, you don't like to be challenged. So I'm surrounded by people who are um, have skill sets that I want to get to one day, or have different skill sets that I don't have. And what I do is I listen. I listen, and I think listening can give you financial literacy. So these things I've learned through the grapevines. I'm getting better every day at cryptocurrency. My trades are better. I'm holding stocks that I really believe in, and they're giving me huge returns. So
Hmm. Hmm.
that is that's an element that I'm really focusing on now, because I feel like my practice is steady. Like I just kind of show up at this point. I work 22 hours a week. My assistants kind of handle everything, and I just show up and adjust people and take care of people at this point.
Hmm. Hmm. No, that's a beautiful way to put it. Um, yeah, nah, thank you for touching on that. I think that there's a lot of parallels between specifically crypto, because you could parallel crypto and Chiro in a sense
Mm,
that most people don't really understand chiropractic, but if we had it our way, chiropractic's the future of how people interface with healthcare, and
100%.
interface with going to get aligned with themselves and going to get aligned up like a person go gets a line up at the barber shop. It's just
Mm,
life enhancing. And cryptocurrency, you really do have to get into what it is and get beyond the stigma around it, get beyond like what people are saying externally, but actually what does it mean to you? And the way you just described it there is what you've come to as a truth within, is that cryptocurrency is something that makes sense, that does have real value. And when you see something that's valuable that everybody else is saying, it's not really that great, it's not, it's this, they simplify it to, or whittle it down or water it down. It's the same thing people are doing with chiropractic, right? In some
mm.
ways, can you see the parallels there with kind of?
100%. Because
Yeah.
because news and information can easily sway people. People don't really do their research, right? And you have to understand, like, we know chiropractic is great. When people are in the office, we see the results. But if you Google it, the first thing that comes up are all these things that possibly could have happened in the chiropractic office. And truthfully, that rarely, probably never, ever happens. And most of the expression in the chiropractic office is people are actually being healed. So
Hmm.
anytime the government and all these things are telling you to do one thing, you might want to look into it a little bit more because they're probably buying it up and doing that thing they're telling you not to do. And if you look at the Federal Reserve and what they're buying right now, they're buying a lot of cryptocurrency. Why is that? But then you search cryptocurrency, like it's a scam, it's this, it's that. No, it's the future. And what they want to do is scare you from buying it so they can have it all. And right now, the retail seller has an opportunity to indulge in something that hasn't been launched yet. But it takes the person to be woke enough to really penetrate that penetrate that paradigm.
Mm-hmm. Penetrating paradigms. I appreciate you, man. Is there any final words that you kind of just want to give to the theoretical perspective student that's watching this? Just in regards to some advice that pre-Chiro P, you know, just to really get clear on what's important to them. Maybe chiropractic is not the best path for them, but you know, just how would you school somebody who's maybe young? Maybe you've already had these conversations with people that are in high school that come in and see you. Like, how do you contextualize this path? And
Mhm.
is this a path that you would recommend, having been where you've been? It sounds like you're doing great.
I think the number one thing is the listening. I think the better you listen and the more information you get, the better questions you can ask. And then on your quest, you're going to see an acceleration that you haven't seen before because the information is going to allow you to get these answers that and unlock information that you never thought you would see, right? It's not about what you know, really. It's more about who you know. And you find yourself knowing people that can open a channel for you that's unheard of. Like some of my mentors here, like my biggest mentor here, he opened a part of me that that I didn't know existed. Of like, wow, I can be a multi-millionaire. Like it I always said it because it was the cool thing to do, but now that that's playing out, I I that's ingrained in my soul because I got the information, right? So I would say you have to ask the right questions, and to ask the right questions, at least listening. And I also want to touch on another basis that Ben, I want to show my appreciation for you because you out here, you delivering the message to people, and you're starting a podcast, and you're getting information out to people that people need. You're interviewing the right people, you're asking the right questions, and I just want to salute you for that because doing this work and branding and all that stuff and not necessarily getting like paid for it. You're getting paid for it with people's happiness and your happiness while doing it. That just shows the human being that you are. So I just want to tip it off to you because I really think you're doing a great thing here. I've watched many of your interviews on this channel, and they've been amazing, and a lot of people are getting a lot out of it. So I
Mhm.
appreciate you, and I appreciate Pre Cairo, and I look forward to what it does in the future.
Most definitely. Yeah. Thank you. And I think I want to give you some flowers too while we got you on, just because, you know, me and you've been through a lot, coming out of school around the same time. And chiropractic in the early time when you're just getting started can feel lonely, even if you had so
Right,
many tribes you were involved with, so many people you were involved with in school. Like you mentioned in the podcast, it's easy to not hear from them like ever again. You might
right,
never talk to them again, but you know, we've maintained our connection. And that means a lot, because you can go through this world sometimes really wondering who are your people, who are the people that really care about you, that if you're gone they're going to miss you. And I definitely feel that way about you. I think you feel that way about me too. And
mhm.
you know, they always talk about give people flowers while they're here. So, you know, not only from my words, but John Caruso posted on the comment while we were talking here, Paul is the man. So glad he's here right now. So shout out
I
to John.
appreciate that, John. Happy for you too, brother.
Yeah, you're doing great things. Keep it popping, keep it shining, keep giving back. You're doing amazing. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, brother.